been compensated. Yes, but the list is already been provided.
But whenever we have a debate on this issue, so couldn't your submission fall within the debate? Today, in a few minutes from now.
I hope you will give me that chance.
I will, Honorable.
Okay.
I will.
Okay, fine.
Yes, I can't debate myself. So, Honorable Tebandeke, procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the previous sitting, the Speaker ruled that the Attorney General also presents a statutory instrument extending the National Women's Council tenure because the council is already in place, but is illegally performing its task. Right Honorable Speaker, even the PDM, which is ongoing.
Now you started justification.
Yes.
No, limit yourself exactly to the procedure matter.
So the council is performing illegally its duties, and the Attorney General, I thought he would delay that statutory instrument before even this, because it is urgently required. I beg to submit.
Yeah, but Honorable, you know, statutory instrument compared to a list. A list is a historical document. He had it. The statutory instrument, he has to go process it, take it to cabinet, it's agreed upon. So, but I shouldn't speak for the Attorney General, only that I wanted you to get the difference for you to say it should have come first. Attorney General, you want to make a comment to satisfy the member?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, like you correctly guided, that is the correct procedure to handle laws. And the law under which the Women Council was elected was made by this Parliament, and this Parliament did not grant the Attorney General the power to extend their life by statutory instruments. So with the instruction of the House, I have moved the matter in Parliament, in Cabinet, to request them to seek for an amendment and clearance from the House to be able to do the extension. I beg to submit.
Honorable Ranya, Honorable Tebandeke, you've had the processes ongoing.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the Honorable Minister for the report. Thank you. Honorable Minister, if you look at page 5, point number 5, where you are saying the presidential initiative support for ending AIDS by 2030 in Uganda, I really feel this statement should be corrected, because it's very impossible to end AIDS by 2030 in Uganda. We can end new infections of HIV/AIDS in Uganda, but you cannot end AIDS by 2030 in Uganda. And two, Right Honorable Speaker, I implore the Honorable Minister
so it's
support.
Not possible? You're prophesying, or you're
Right Honorable Speaker, looking at the number of years and those ones who are affected. So it's quite impossible. Right Honorable Speaker, and two, finally, I would like to implore Honorable Minister to support various organizations who are supporting people living with HIV and AIDS. For example, we have TASO in Gulu, their main office in Gulu, TASO Lera, TASO in other places. Right now, Honorable Minister, if government could support such kind of organization like TASO, I really feel the implementations of various government programs in ending HIV/AIDS more spread would be more easier. I pray that you support those organizations. Thank you.
Vice Chair, Committee on HIV/AIDS, Honorable Kisa.
Yeah, thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues. First of all, I want to thank the Minister for the statement, and equally for inviting members to grace this World AIDS Day that is going to be marked in Rukungiri. But Right Honorable Speaker, there is something the Honorable Minister has commented on, that the rise and the surge in the new infections of HIV/AIDS were mainly during the lockdown that increased to 54,000 Ugandans. And Right Honorable Speaker, as we talk now, Kasanda and Mubende, they are under lockdown. And the concern of the committee now, this situation in Uganda of lockdown, we are worried that we may have more effects of lockdown on HIV/AIDS prevalence and services in those two districts. And therefore, I want to urge government in the above districts to focus more, as they focus more on controlling Ebola. Right, Honourable Speaker, we should have strategies that should be put in place to attain zero new infections, zero new AIDS-related death, and zero babies born with HIV by addressing all of the factors that continue to increase HIV situations in Uganda. Finally, Right Honourable Speaker, there is only one other observation I want to make as a committee. During our interactions with the many stakeholders in the country, including the Uganda AIDS Commission, the committee has noted over time that donor support has been declining drastically. And currently, we only have the United States government through PEPFAR that is still on board. And it is only providing approximately $400 million. Now, Right Honourable Speaker, the committee notes that donor funds have largely been used mainly on vertical programs.
But Honorable, you're presenting again what you presented.
No,
This is a simple debate on the statement, and I gave you 2 minutes. There is a report. If you have a new report, come, I give you space, you present it.
Most obliged. I want just to mention one thing, Honourable Speaker, that this parliament passed a bill that came into law. And in 2014, the HIV/AIDS Prevalence and Control Act was put into, was passed by Parliament. And after passing it, we expect around in Chapter 5 of this Act, it provides clearly that government should operationalize the AIDS Trust Fund. And my appeal as a committee is to request the minister and all people in government to ensure that the AIDS Trust Fund is operationalized. I want to thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Yes, I will allow Rakai where HIV started from, then Honourable Beatrice Award.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Minister, for this wonderful report. But I am very much worried when you look at the new infections being between 15 years to 24 years of age. That speaks to our school-going children. And when you look at the presidential fast-track initiative to end HIV infections, new infections, I think as a president's office and the Ministry of Education, you should work together, and we see that we have school campaigns because this is happening in our schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then secondly, since HIV is where,
Honourable,
since
never-
Rakai district
never
is where,
conclude when you're still submitting.
I'm sorry, sir. Since Rakai district is the birth, I'm sorry to say that, but that's what happened of HIV. We have lived with bad effects up to date. And we are looking forward next year to have this celebrated in Rakai district because it will create more awareness and Chotera and information to you, Honorable of Chotera. You were asking for information? Oh, okay. So we pray as people of Rakai that we have the celebrations next year so that our people get more sensitized about the effects of
Thank you.
HIV. Thank you so much, Right
Honourable
Honorable
Beatrice
Speaker.
Award.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. In the early time of HIV/AIDS, when people got to know about it, everybody was vigilant. Even on the radios and in primary schools, there were competitions, and we fought HIV/AIDS very much, reduce the incidences of HIV/AIDS. But now it looks like everything is just quiet. It is almost like we are contented that we have already done away with HIV/AIDS. And yet for the young people, they think it is now like malaria or flu, treating flu. So it needs us to go again on our toes to fight HIV/AIDS very much. Sometimes government has time on radios. This time on radios should be used also to give messages on HIV/AIDS. Look, tomorrow next we have World AIDS Day, which is going to be commemorated in Rukungiri. But you will find that most districts have not prepared, or most sub-counties have not prepared to celebrate, to commemorate this day. And yet it is the time that we should take stock of what has happened. Presidential initiative is very important and is very good, but there is no push, there is no funding to let us really put it on the ground. And please allow.
Thank you, honorable colleague, for giving me way for information. Truly speaking, right honorable speaker, as we do commemorate this day, I would like to inform my colleagues that the presidential initiative, as it needs money, Uganda as a government has a political goodwill to fight this disease, HIV/AIDS. And I really want to appreciate the president of this country for that. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe that we don't have funding. We only need to prioritize HIV/AIDS. If we prioritize, we will save our young people.
Now with that,
Because right now, honorable speaker, you will find that at least there is prevention. Is there transmission from mother to child? There is already a way of preventing that
so
transmission.
Honorable,
Why?
are you rejecting his information then?
No, I'm not rejected. I'm not rejected. I've taken his information, but I wanted to finish with at least knowing that we have a way of preventing HIV transmission from mother to child.
Thank you.
That means that we can actually cut down completely the spread of HIV. If we are vigilant, we are not vigilant, we are not prioritizing, we are not giving funding to HIV/AIDS. Let us fund and let us also load it like tomorrow next. It should have been everywhere and on very many radios and also many TVs about HIV/AIDS to people. Even schools, although schools have been closed already, but it is important to have HIV sensitization back to schools, primary schools and secondary schools, where we have the spread the most.
Thank
When
you,
we talk
Honorable.
about 15 to maybe 30. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Rope.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what Honorable, my colleague, the ever friend of mine from Buka, raised on the AIDS Trust Fund. Mr. Speaker, it is a creature of the law. It is vividly enshrined in the HIV/AIDS Prevention and Control Act. It provides for creation of a trust fund. Mr. Speaker, if you go through the figures provided by the minister in her statement, I've just calculated. It means we are losing 47 on average, 47 Ugandans per day to HIV/AIDS. And that therefore means we cannot nip it in the bud at the target of 2030, like the Honorable Gilbert put it. So Speaker, even operationalizing if you go to, for instance, the AIDS AIDS Commission, in the national budget, always the budgetary allocation has been 25 billion. But what is always provided for the last 3 consecutive years is 15 million. Actually, the chairman of the budget committee, 15 billion.
Okay.
That in itself hampers and actually paralyzes the operations of the commission to do the oversight role
and even the fighting against this serious disease of HIV/AIDS. Mr. Speaker, therefore, for the minister to get serious, the funding bit of it must be put right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, colleagues, most of these were comments. There were no specific questions to the minister. So I don't want to disturb her again going on the floor to repeat what she had said, but I'm sure she has noted and see she has taken notes. So this is an information paper for noting and also the committee to look at. But I think it would be a good practice whenever we are going to have such an international days for the committee to come and give us a report on the floor, an independent report which we can own as a house, so that once the minister is coming with a statement from her minister, from his or her ministry, it is comparable or we are already informed as a house through our committee. So clerk, ensure we make this a practice. At least a month before or 2 weeks before, the committee should always give an update to the house in terms of any international day. There are not many. Can always have our own data, which can give us a better way of debating with the minister. Thank you. Next item.
Item 3, Roman 2, Statement on International Day for Persons with Disabilities.
Yes, Honorable Minister. No, Minister, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable members of Parliament, I want to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to brief members about the forthcoming commemoration of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the purpose of the statement is to provide information to Parliament regarding this year's International Day for Persons with Disabilities, scheduled to take place on the 3rd December 2022 in Korle District. Honorable members, commemoration of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities is one of the advocacy activities my ministry undertakes in fulfillment of the constitutional mandate as provided for under the national objectives so XV1, which obliges each society and the state to recognize the rights of persons with disabilities, to respect and human dignity. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the United Nations Decade for Persons with Disabilities was held from 1983 to 1992 to enable governments and organizations to implement measures to improve the lives of persons with disabilities. Over the world, on October 14, 1992, as this decade drew to a conclusion, the UN General Assembly proclaimed 3rd December as the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and the day was first observed in December 3rd, 1992. On December 18, 2007, the Assembly changed the name from the International Day of Disabled Persons to International Day of Persons with Disabilities. The new name was first used in 2008. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the International Day for Persons with Disabilities is commemorated to celebrate and acknowledge the capabilities of persons with disabilities in contributing towards the development of the country. Commemorating this day creates awareness in the importance of promoting equality and full participation of persons with disabilities in social life as well as development. Further, on this day, government takes stock of the achievements made in serving persons with disabilities, the challenges encountered, and comes up with a very good forward for serving them better. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, according to Uganda Bureau of Statistics, disability monography, analytic study 2019, disability prevalence stood at 14%, 15% for female, 12% for men. Of the 40.3 million entire population of Uganda, this translates to about 6,642,000 Ugandans with disability. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, government is committed to addressing the concerns and needs that come with the increased number of persons with disabilities through eliminating all forms of neglect, abuse, and violence as provided for under Article 32 of the Constitution, while promoting recognition of their contribution to the national development. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the International Day of Persons with Disabilities brings together stakeholders across ministries, departments, and agencies, civil society, and development partners, given the multi-sectoral nature of disability. Most importantly, the day brings together persons with disabilities in celebration of their achievements and contributions to the national development while highlighting emerging challenges and identifying solutions to them. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the objectives of these statements are to inform Parliament that Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate the International Day for Persons with Disabilities on the 3rd December 2022. 2, to inform Parliament that the theme of the International Day for Persons with Disabilities is Leadership and Mindset Change, a tool for inclusive development. Inform Parliament that the host region for the national celebration was selected based on regional rotation basis, and the venue for this year will be Northern Uganda, Kole District at the Okole Primary School grounds. Inform Parliament that Her Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, is expected to preside over the celebrations as the chief guest, and to invite the Right Honorable Speaker and all the members of Parliament on behalf of the Disability Fraternity to attend this event. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to recognize that some of the results from the previous celebration. Persons with disabilities requested to be allocated specific ceiling under the Parish Development Model Program on affirmative action. And persons with disabilities can now access 10% of the PDM funds through PDM circles. During the commemoration of the day in 2021, persons with disabilities requested for an increment in the allocation of the National Special Grant for Persons with Disabilities to at least 17 billion to cater for 31 local governments that had not benefited from the grant. I'm pleased to report that the budget for the program was enhanced from shillings 9.6 billion to 16.6 billion financial year 2022-2023, and a total of 2,656 PW groups will benefit from the program, thereby reaching to over 16,000 households countrywide to start income generating activities. I thank the executive and I thank the legislature for this consideration. A list of disbursements for the grant for each local government since 2019-20 has been attached for your information. Previously, the program was demand-driven. However, starting this financial year, every local government has been allocated an indicative planning figure to ensure equity in allocation of the grants. Challenges from the previous event. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, due to the scientific nature of the commemoration last year, many persons with disabilities were left out since the only limited number of stakeholders attended the function due to COVID-19 prevention mechanisms. This year, the commemoration will be held in Kole, involving all stakeholders with strict adherence to COVID-19 and Ebola standing operating procedures. Lessons learned from the previous. Honorable members, the scientific nature of the commemoration due to COVID-19 prevention mechanisms leaves out many stakeholders. This year, we have mobilized stakeholders in the disability fraternity to attend the celebration and share ideas on how to improve the lives of persons with disabilities. The precursor activities like the National Disability Symposium had a multiplier effect in terms of advocacy, and despite COVID-19 challenges, stakeholders have supported a reasonable number of persons with disabilities in different aspects as per last year's commitments. The National Disability Forum has now been adopted as a precursor event for stakeholders to brainstorm, identify, and discuss strategies that can improve the well-being of persons with disabilities. Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable members, the theme of year's commemoration is leadership and mindset change for inclusive development, has been strategically elected to strengthen and amplify awareness about abilities of persons with disabilities and encourage leaders at all levels to support persons with disabilities to enhance their potential through effective participation in all development areas. Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the theme further urges us leaders to stop stereotypes and misconceptions about disability and support efforts towards an inclusive society for all. With a positive mindset, we start to accommodate and put in place mechanisms to support persons with disabilities. The theme is directly in line with our national efforts of steering all citizens towards wealth creation through inclusive planning and implementation of programs. The Sustainable Development Goals, which emphasize leaving no one behind, and the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which Uganda ratified in 2008. Right, Honorable Speaker, some of the activities for this year's commemoration will include: one, a National Disability Symposium, which will be held in Kole on the 2nd of November. A health camp outreach conducted in Kole districts, including eye care, medical referrals, assessment for assistive devices, and distribution of assistive devices and other services. Provision of the National Special Grant for Persons with Disabilities to beneficiaries in Kole district. Launch of the revised national policy on persons with disabilities. Launch of the audiovisual version of the Persons with Disabilities Act 2020. Right, Honorable Speaker and all members, as I also conclude that we shall also be launching the first Braille Constitution that the Law Reform Commission, I want to thank the Attorney General for that now Uganda has got a Braille copy of the Constitution for the blind people to get. Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I want to conclude by requesting honorable members of Parliament on behalf of persons with disabilities to seek your support in promoting meaningful mindset change towards persons with disabilities and facilitate their inclusion in development. As we count on your deliberate affirmative actions for persons with disabilities, my ministry commits to aim higher as far as the welfare of persons with disabilities is concerned. I wish to invite all members to the national celebration in Kole Primary School grounds in Kole District. I beg to submit, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Just on a very small correction on 1.18, I believe you meant National Disability Symposium, which will be held in Kore on the 2nd of December, not November, isn't it? Yeah, so let the answer to capture December instead of November, like we've done for the previous one. Yes, please, Shadow Minister. We are going to do 3 people. I'll do Honorable Tuka, Honorable Kamatenet, the Shadow Minister. And do we have MP from Kore? Yeah. I will do Honorable Agnes. Yeah, yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. First of all, I'd want to appreciate the
2 minutes
Minister for the presentation as we commemorate the Day of the Disabled. I see clarification first on the statement. It indicates that the theme, the international theme for this year's commemoration is leadership and mindset change, a tool for inclusive development. However, the international theme is transformative solutions for inclusive development, the role of innovation in fueling an accessible and equitable world. So I don't know if the minister referred to as the national theme instead of it being the international theme. I see clarifications that we can set the record straight. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, as we are adopting the innovativeness, including the PWDs, I think right now so we need to look at what is curtailing the PWDs from being inclusive. And that is, to my understanding or to my thinking, is the inability to innovate. So I think as the government needs to consider creating avenues to enhance the knowledge and skills of the PWDs. Last year, we talked of inclusive education for PWDs. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I propose that the government and the minister puts into consideration enhancing the knowledge for PWDs and equipping the PWDs with the necessary skills that will enable them compete in this world by providing the necessary learning materials and the equipment that they will use while exercising their abilities as PWDs. Last in Right Honorable Speaker, I want to implore the members of parliament, because the minister has listed down monies that were sent to districts for PWDs. I would want to implore members of parliament to take in interest in these monies, because this money is sent at district levels, but trust me, most of our members of parliament do not know that this money is sent there. So we as members of parliament need to take keen interest in ensuring that this money is used for the purposes for which it is sent at our district levels. Thank you, Right Honorable
Thank
Speaker.
you, Honorable Tukaiza.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. I also want to thank the Minister for the statement. Right Honorable Speaker, I acknowledge the efforts of the Parliament to support the budgetary support for PWDs. But one challenge I have seen is that when it comes to distribution of these funds, it doesn't reach, in most cases, the end users, because most of the people who are disabled in our communities don't really benefit from this fund, because when it reaches the district releases to the sub-county. But I think the system for this money to reach up to the end users is still a big challenge. And secondly, I expected the minister to talk about tracking PWDs, or those who are talented differently. In fact, of late it is said that those are not really disabled, but they are talented differently. Because I have seen PWDs who are able to play instruments using their toes, even eat using their toes. There's one in Yaivu constituency. When he plays for you the harps, you really see the talent this person has, but they are not really supported. This is somebody who has a family, he's married to 3 children, but he always has to go on the streets to play. Yes, he's married with the 3 children, but for him to survive, he has to pick his harp, go on the street, play using the toes, and that is how he survives. And that is the extent to let you know that these people are not really supported. And lastly, when we look at the PWDs in the institutions, I thought for 20 years.
Ntungamo.
Thank you
I've
so
already
much.
picked the 4.
Thank
I'm
you
ending
so
with
much.
Honorable Amede.
Right Honorable Speaker.
I'll give you opportunities on the next.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. First, I appreciate our minister because she always comes here to make such statements. But however, I really encourage leaders and our government to really put these statements and policies into real practice. When you go to health centers, I usually visit my health centers, you find there are very few people with disabilities who come there to seek medical attention, especially the deaf and those who cannot talk. Reason, some of them have some diseases they don't want to reveal to relatives and friends. And there are no interpreters at Health Center 3s and Health Center 4s, and even other hospitals like in up-country districts. So I really encourage our minister to work with government through your Right Honorable Speaker. You make a clear budget such that at every Health Center 3 onwards, you employ a health worker who is responsible for people living with disabilities, especially those who cannot talk and the deaf ones, such that you help them in interpreting their sickness and their problems. Secondly, about education. When you go to primary schools, you find very young children who need wheelchairs, who use toy latrines, and when they are constructing those latrines, they don't put them into considerations. You find they have to go and hide in the bushes to help them to ease themselves. When you're providing chairs, when they are procuring chairs and taking them to schools, especially government schools, they don't put them into consideration. You find other people are
Thank you, Honorable Agnes Amede.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, the Minister, for the statement. I would like to comment that this constituency of disabled persons is very small, yet they are the most disadvantaged in the country. I therefore call upon the Minister and the government that there should be a shift from the way we are doing things. For example, the orthodox way of having big celebrations in particular regions. Societies have moved on. We have radios, we have televisions. Instead of this big money going to one particular place, let the money be spread across so that on that particular day, all districts are celebrating. The other issue is the planning for this constituency. I don't know whether the minister even have statistics, especially the children with disabilities. They are not catered for. In my own sub-count of births, there is a secondary school being built, but I don't see any facilities for disabled children being put on board. It is therefore my humble request that let's walk the talk and really help disabled persons. Finally, the grants that are operating in the local government from different ministries. We MPs find it difficult to have oversight on these grants. We have come up with an innovative way in Butevo and come up with a multi-purpose committee to look into all these grants. It is my humble request that in cabinet, you emphasize this, that we get in.
Thank you. Honorable Court, you had the clarification you showed me. Can you just ask the minister quickly, 1 minute?
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to find some clarification from the minister. In our presentations, he said provision of national special grant for persons with disability grants to beneficiaries in Kole district, plus any other activities that he had mentioned. You see, meaning these grants will go to Kole district only, or you're going to take care even with other districts. Number two, on the same note of the grants, you have indicated on the table many districts and different allocations that you have given to them. I don't know whether you are going to give provision persons with disability who will come to the national celebration in Kole. And if it is so, have you provided any facilitation to their journey to that place? Finally, Mr. Speaker, can allow me, in northern Uganda, especially in Pade, Kitgum, part of Omoro, there's this disease called nodding syndrome. And when you see the people who are suffering from them, majority of them, they are disabled people. Would you consider taking some study deeply to them? Then you see how to give a special grant in handling that situation. The place is a little bit localized, not everywhere. The places are a little bit localized. You can be managed if you could take interest into that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah. Honorable Minister, Rope, you had, no, the shadow minister did the work for you.
A brief one, Mr. Speaker, sir. I have also realized that there are rehabilitation centers for persons with disabilities, and they are not very many in the country, but they are not equipped. They are very ill-equipped, Madam Minister. Besides that, we ought to have at least more of the learning and the teaching materials available to these rehabilitation centers. And then even experts in sign language. And the staff too ought to be trained to know the sign language. Otherwise, I salute you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And no quick responses in 3 minutes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I want to thank the honorable colleagues. I will start with the theme. This is a national theme because in Uganda, we feel as disabled people that we have moved the advocacy, but the leaders are still not moving at our speed. So we believe that when we talk of leadership, I am talking to members of parliament, I'm talking to the Right Honorable Speaker, I'm talking to everybody to take responsibility as far as disabled people are concerned. Like what the Honorable Ahmed has asked, that they are building a school and she doesn't know whether there is accessibility, and yet she's a leader. I would expect her to become the first inspector to say, but where are the people with disabilities in this school? So that's what the leadership and mindset change is, because the mindset starts with us, and disability challenges start from society. You know, even if I work as a minister, a child will say, but that one is a mulema. They really give you another name. And then the other thing, Honorable Tuka, the issue of the money. This money is mobilized by people with disability. They form their groups between 5 to 15 people. On an average, they get 5 million. The CDOs are expected to do the mobilization and give people information about this money, and then they are able to make these groups. But I want to report that some of these groups have gone up to beyond sub-county. And at a later stage, we have already, under my administration, come up with what we call the management information system to know which village has got money, which sub-county has got money, so that we track where are we and where does the money go. Honorable Jocelyn from Tungamo, the issue of sign language interpreters is critical, and I've talked to my colleague, Minister of Public Service, to see that we begin recruiting these people, especially to public places where they can be used. For example, if you are coming to a ministry, you are going to hospital, can we get the sign language interpreters there? Because they already trained. Chambo gives us a very good turn up of these sign language interpreters who have been trained at least at diploma level. So I think that one, we are still under discussion. We shall report about it. The issue of facilities is critical. Disability is a progressive issue. It's a development issue. But I want to report to the House that disability is not like the way some of us grew. These days, at least you can get wheelchairs, you can get crutches, you can get many things. But I think government is moving towards that. And we had a discussion, and we said, if Mubende Casualty Unit is now making artificial limbs for the soldiers, why not begin a full project to do assistive devices with the local materials?
Conclude, Honorable Minister.
Thank you. So that's something that we are looking at. For Honorable Okot, the grants, COLE is being used as a demonstration of celebration, but the money goes to the districts, to people's accounts, the ones who have applied for this money. So they will get it in their villages. They don't need to come to COLE. We are only doing a demonstration, a dummy check to say these groups of COLE have received as part of our celebration. So I think that's what we shall be doing. And I want to agree with the leader of opposition that the issue of rehabilitation centers is critical. We already presented this in the last budget, and we shall bring it back because they are really in dire need of rehabilitation. Some of them were made in 1950s and 40s up to now. So I think this is a critical thing that will be handled. Thank you so much. And I want to encourage members of parliament, let's support this group of unprivileged people. They are part of Uganda. Disability is not meaning that you are not able to do anything. Yes, because when you're a person with disability, sometimes you are better off, like Honorable Tuka was saying, it's like it's a dream for somebody to play with these toys. God always gives you an alternative when something is not there. So thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We shall indeed, as usual, honorable colleagues are involved in helping many disabled people in their constituencies. many give out wheelchairs, they give all kinds of support. So you always count on us when it comes to issues of people with disabilities. Thank you. Next item.
Item 4, presentation of action taken report on resolutions of the 11th Parliament, May 21 to May 22.
Thank you, Kirak. Honorable colleagues, if you remember what we agreed on Thursday, the procedure we adopted after a discussion we had as a House, and we came up with a very clear way we shall move. Number one, we said, and Clerk, I want you next time to capture them under clear substantive statements so that they can easily be followed up in terms of reports. So last time, 5A was Attorney General, no, 5 Roman 1. 5 Roman 2 was Minister of Health. So tomorrow, I want us to capture exactly. So they presented, but the leader of opposition was supposed to, would I call it a rejoinder or a response? Let me call it a response, alternative, and he's ready. So we shall start with the report of the Attorney General. We get an alternative from the opposition, and then I open up to you, colleagues, and we conclude that. Then we go to the next. Okay? So today we shall do, I'll see what we shall do after this. Honorable Medad, I don't know if 10 minutes are enough for you. Attorney General didn't use 10. So the response.
Certainly, Mr. Speaker, you're now dealing with another government.
Yes.
And it's now government, but I will endeavor.
Okay.
First, let me clarify, Mr. Speaker, by stating that I'm no longer acting as leader of opposition, but I'm only designated and instructed to continue with what I started.
Okay.
I have always been advised, you have advised that I do not bring hecklers on record, and I do not intend to do that. Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, permit me first of all to indicate that in our response, we have made reference to a number of addenda, which I beg first to lay on table so that a person reading this report or our response would be able to follow. So each and every reference that we have made in respect of the different ministries' presentations is contained in this volume, which I beg to lay on table.
And I hope it's uploaded.
Yes, it is, Mr. Speaker, it is uploaded. First, Right Honorable Speaker, in our response, we made an executive summary, which encompasses a summary of each and everything that we have made reference to in our report, and I do not intend to read it in light of the time you have given me, but I trust that colleagues will be able to read that executive summary. For purposes of this proceeding, I am instructed to concentrate on Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, and for ease of reference, the same is found on page 61 of our presentation. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the learned Attorney General for making a fairly comprehensive response, including the addendum of the documents that he laid on table this afternoon, which I trust brings to completion the task that he undertook to report to Parliament. At page 61, on the motion of 3rd November 2021, a motion for a resolution of Parliament urging government to address challenges facing the girl child and children. Sorry, forgive me. Should be page 61, not 64.
Page 61.
61.
Of your response.
Yes, Mr. Speaker,
The Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs appears at page 61. On 3rd November 2021, a motion for a resolution of Parliament urging government to address the challenges facing the girl child and children in general in the digital era was debated and adopted. And the resolution adopted by Parliament was government to implement the Trafficking in Persons Act 2019 and the Anti-Pornography Act 2014. The reported action taken include the Trafficking in Persons Act 2019 being implemented in accordance with the law, and the Anti-Pornography Act 2014 was reported as being a subject to the constitutional petition, where the court found section 1(2) of the definition of pornography as unconstitutional, and an appeal against this decision has been filed. Therefore, the implementation of the act has been made difficult. Admittedly, that means that it has not been implemented. On the Trafficking in Persons Act 2019, the report does not include the statistics of how the law is being implemented in terms of those charged and/or convicted. We expected a study on whether the law in its current state is the most appropriate remedy to the vice. We would recommend that the Attorney General presents to Parliament the status of the implementation of the Penal Code Act intended to protect both the girls and boy child against the female genital, girl child against female genital mutilation, rape, defilement, child marriage, and all other forms of child abuse. The action taken at page 62, the very nature of the Penal Code Act is to provide for offenses and punishment for those offenses. Therefore, successful implementation of the Penal Code requires securing convictions on the offenses committed. The government provided a table showing statistics on the offenses reported and how they've been handled. To this end, we are grateful to the Attorney Generals for the industry exhibited. Our observation: the figures and statistics presented lack a trend analysis to show whether there has been a decrease or increase in the matter of cases of child abuse over a given period of time. This would enable us know whether the law is working or not, and also explore a need to come up with another intervention where need be. The other motion, resolution, from a motion on the 14th of April 2022, there was a motion on the resolution of Parliament urging government to immediately stop cattle rustling and restore peace, security, and stability in the sub-regions of Teso, Lao, Acholi, Karamoja, Bugisu, and Sebei, which was debated and adopted. A number of resolutions were passed under this motion, irrespective of which the government has responded. Some aspects of this motion are covered under the Ministry of Defense and other sectors. Therefore, under this part, we shall focus on the following. Resolution 3, that the government verifies and pays compensation to the people who have lost livestock and livestock and the property to the cattle rustlers. With respect to those that have lost lives, Right Honorable Speaker, we understand the resolution to mean compensation to their surviving relatives. The action taken: government commenced the compensation for cattle lost in Acholi, Lango, and Teso sub-regions. To date, 17,687 claimants have been paid a total of Uganda shillings 345,708,595, with unspent balance of 654,291,405 because of the bounced payments. Our observations: the action taken report restricted to cattle lost and in the said regions, leaving out compensation for the lives lost and other property lost to the cattle rustlers. Is there any compensation planned for the victims or affected families? Is our question. The report did not indicate whether the number of 17,687 claimants reported is the total and final number of the claimant stroke victims in the covered areas. We therefore await to get clarification from government. Secondly, the report did not indicate whether funds of 49 billion currently being paid is enough to compensate all the claimants. Our recommendation, the government should adduce a comprehensive report clearly indicating all claimants, how much they have lost and how much they're claiming, and the criteria for the valuation, families of those who were unfortunately killed by the rustlers, and the plan for compensating them, among other factors incidental thereto. This, Mr. Speaker, stood before the Attorney General laid the comprehensive list, and I would wish to have it amended to that extent. There are a number of resolutions left out from those that the Attorney General responded to, or the Minister for Justice responded to. There are pertinent issues which have been raised over the years, over time, to which the government has committed to respond, but to date, we are still lacking substantive steps taken to address them. The gross human rights abuses, Mr. Speaker, I do not intend to read the whole of this because you have addressed it in the preceding agenda items. It is of interest to us as Parliament and as a country, Mr. Speaker, to know about the fate of those that are missing. Uganda has a constitution, and that constitution must be observed to the letter. At page 64, we make reference to the security operatives that have instead continued abducting more people and torturing. Within 30 seconds, Mr. Speaker, we will reiterate our earlier demands on the subject and invite government to make substantive responses to this. We want to thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Segona. This is indeed, colleagues, we have to applaud the colleague. You know, this is how we are going to build a relationship in this house, where alternative policy is given attention, because if we always don't allow such an opportunity, then you will have issues of only quarrels. You will have a house of quarrels. Like now, the issue which a colleague started with is an issue which is already here. And that's why I said Honorable Segona had raised it. And we had already worked out a plan on how we are going to resolve it. But when we come to Parliament without reading, and you come with a preconceived mind, may I have this issue? I will find a way, whether under procedure or what I must present it. Then we shall end up having scenarios which can overshadow serious issues that are well prepared. So on this issue, we have already agreed, Honorable, that on Tuesday, we shall be meeting to address it, and we shall update the House. It shall not remain between us. So, colleagues, I open up to you. We shall do 15 minutes in response to this issue, and I will start with Honorable Nzima. And I add on Honorable Mudimi and Honorable Jonathan Odur. Then I will pick you more, colleagues. I'll pick you.
Thank you,
Yes,
Right
sir.
Honorable Speaker.
Each one of us can use 1.5 minutes.
Right Honorable Speaker, now one and a half minutes. I don't.
Now you're wasting your time.
The issue of compensation, in my opinion, when government decided that she wants to compensate people for cattle or animals lost, this will have been comprehensive in nature. You will find that in West Nile, though the rest of the West Nile sub-region did not have much issues to do with loss of cattle or animal to Koni Rebo, but areas in Adjuman suffered. But in this report, Adjuman is being left out. And also in the 10th Parliament, we had started a comprehensive approach where there were even lists of other people who lost property, like lorries, buses, and the rest. But now in this compensation process, we have only zeroed on cattle. Then also there were other rebel activities. In West Nile, there was West Nile Bank Front. People lost a lot of animals. So we also want the government to come clear on this. Because there were a number of people who lost their animals. LUCs were looked at, people who identified themselves with the government, Many of them lost their property and cattle. So,
Thank you, Honorable Mudimi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. On the issue of compensation, we agreed in the motion that we should include Bugisu and Sebei. I've not heard anything of Bugisu and Sebei. So in the discussion, Bugisu and Sebei should also be included, and Nakapiripiri, Karamoja.
So, Honorable Attorney General, we shall need action taken in terms of those areas. I had allowed Jonathan Odur.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
going to
Speaker.
allow your colleagues. We do quick.
Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of compensation for lost animals and lives due to cattle rustling in Lango, Teso, and Karamoja are twofold, and I would have been very pleased for the Attorney General to give us the details of claimants who went to court, because there was an order of court, and there were 3 different parties who went to court, and court made pronouncement. But we also have people from Lango, Teso, and Karamoja who did not go to court because the president promised during his campaigns that the government would compensate them, so they don't need to go to court. So I would ask the Attorney General first to clarify the details of claimants who went to court and those who did not go to court. Secondly, the animal population, especially the cattle, by 1987 to 89, where this rustling took place, was estimated to be 1 million animals, cows to be specific. And this information is available with Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Industry. If you look at the amount of money that is going to compensate these lost animals, they do not match. If we take the 1 million originally proposed, and I'm told that it was later adjusted to 1.5, you would need 1.5 trillion shillings to compensate the animals that are lost in Lango alone. So this,
I'm allowing you to conclude. You give yourself more time, so.
yeah,
The
thank you very
microphone
much.
refused.
Yes. So it would be important for the Attorney General to project this total amount so that it comes and settle the people who are waiting for this. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, these payments that have been mentioned here were really very inconsistent. I can even mention it, they were very chaotic, because claimants who had claimed for 6 or 7, the Office of the Attorney General reduced and said we are only paying for 1. No one has explained to the claimants what happens to the other 6. What standard did the Attorney General use to reduce from 6, for example, 6 cows to 1, or from 10 to 5? So these are very important questions that would like the Attorney General to
Thank you.
clarify.
I have picked West Nile. I have picked Lango. I have picked Bugisu. Let me first pick Achori. Anywa, Honorable Anywa Richard.
Thank you.
I go to Teso here.
Thank you, Right Honorable
I
Speaker.
want first the affected areas, colleagues.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the government to compensate the animals lost. Right Honorable Speaker, the criteria and the mechanism being used by the Attorney General is quite confusing. One, at the onset, they had agreed that they are going to pay each claimant 1 million shillings per cow. But on the last payment, you find that people are getting 30,000 shillings or even less than that. I'm wondering if the Attorney General is compensating part of an animal or compensating a full animal.
No, Honorable, without interrupting you, you see, someone who will be reading our answer, for example, is a researcher. Okay?
1 million.
We need to be, just sit, I will give you your time. We need to be consistent as colleagues, especially when we refer to figures. Now you've spoken of 1 million. Jonathan Odur said indeed, at first it was 1 million, then increased 1.5. Okay? Now it has come 30,000. No, I just...
Mr. Speaker, let me just clarify. the amount that was initially awarded by court was 1 million per cow.
Okay.
The government voluntarily said because of time has passed, they adjusted to
1.5.
1.5. But now when it comes to payment,
Yeah.
that's the figure. The
They are
actual
paying
payment,
30.
they now pay 30,000 or
The good thing, Attorney General has given a report, but he will respond. He wanted first give information, then he continue. Let him give us information which can guide the debate.
Thank you.
Wait a little. Let us get
Thank you very
complete
much, Right Honorable Speaker. A cow is valued at 1,050,000 per head, not 1,005, not 1.5, not 30,000. And Honorable Anywa, I want to challenge you here that the record that I have presented on the floor here do not show a single person who has been paid less than 1,050,000. That's the information.
Right, Honorable Speaker, we need to be factual and we need to help Ugandans. Right, Honorable Speaker, now in Acholi sub-region, in my district, Amoro, we have people who are given 200,000. Others are getting 300,000. Yet, according to the Office of the Attorney General, they're saying a cow cost 1,050,000. Let the Attorney General be very clear. Why were you giving? Where were you paying those people 200, 300, and 500? And Right Honorable Speaker, I'm coming. The ghost. We have so many ghosts who are benefiting from this payment. Right Honorable Speaker, the case in point, we have about 500 ghost people. I was computing together with the chairman of the claimants, and the ghosts are getting 20 million, 30 million, 50 million. The real claimants are getting 200,000, 300,000. Right Honorable Speaker, is the Honorable Attorney General in order to lie or to mislead this parliament that people are being paid full amount of money for the cow, yet the contrary is true in Acholi sub-region? Is it in order?
Thank you. You see, Honorable, depending on the route you take. Now, the Attorney General has presented the document. You have not presented any document, and you want me to rule him again out of order. So if you can bring me clear evidence and you lay it on table, then it would make it easier for me to say, Attorney General, you're not in order. Okay? So I would guide the colleagues. I would guide the colleagues. Before you come here and you say, people in this area are being paid 200,000 instead of 1 million, come and lay evidence on table. Otherwise, speaking generally is for our convenience to win a debate, but it won't help. Okay? So, colleagues, if you know, and this is how you will help your constituents. If you know any person, even if they can write and put a petition, it can be even in form of a petition. Okay? If you don't have banks and all that, a clear petition and say, me, I was entitled to this much, but they have paid me only 200,000 per cow, and they are saying I don't have any further claim. Then that will make our work very easy. And the moment you bring it, I will give it priority. Okay? On the table. So I want to guide on that. So that is clearly captured. Understood. Oh, this same issue?
Yes, with your permission, Mr.
Yeah.
Speaker, the matter is being handled
Don't mind, I still have
by the
one.
Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, where the Attorney General came and presented.
Mhm.
So just in case there is anybody who has that kind of information, we can still receive it in the committee.
In short,
Yes, because we are receiving them.
the report submitted by the Attorney General, I'm going to refer it to the committee on legal and parliamentary affairs. Then colleagues who have evidence to dispute this report, okay? I hereby call upon the chairperson of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee to give them time so that they can be heard. Even if it means bringing their people to appear before the committee, even if it means us as parliament sending the committee on ground, we can do that. Okay?
Mr. Speaker. And indeed, you have a very good report, because even our committee as well is doing the same government assurances. And for us, we are going the ground to look at those particular people who got the cows physically. So what we are going to achieve, Mr. Speaker, would be the best of it.
Thank you. I'll be waiting for a report from the Oversight Committee on Government. So Honorable Banywa had not yet concluded,
Yeah,
but we've agreed how we should move, colleagues.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for your guidance and wise ruling. Right Honorable Speaker, I would explore that the committee go on the ground and find out the truth. Meanwhile, Right Honorable Speaker, I'm ready. I request you give me time so that I lay on table facts that people of Agago were paid 30,000 shillings for the compensation of their animals. This, we have the evidence, we can bring it if you give us time. And also the Right Honorable Speaker, I will give you information, wait. Right Honorable Speaker, the criteria used to vet the people who are supposed to be paid, because some people lost 10 cows, you feel for 10 cows, but at the end of the day, only 2 probably cows will be reflected on your form. So we don't know what happened to the other 8 of cows. And also, I'm wondering, the Right Honorable Speaker, what is the rush to pay the cow? Meanwhile, the people who lost their lives are not being telling us that life is not important and animals are more important than the life we lost.
Thank you. No, he has no time to give you. Please. Please, it's not a matter of passing on microphones. Just wait. Just wait. So, colleagues, I want us to first have a positive tone. Okay? Because you see, if we are driven by a negative tone, we will lose it. A positive tone in that at least conversation has started. You have a point of starting your complaint clearly. The other time there was 0. At least now 49 billion has been paid, which is better than nothing. And this can help us to clean up and guide on payment of the other money if we can submit with a major focus of how to improve the process, not a focus over choosing each other. Then we will move much better. Honorable Cooper, and then I will allow Karamoja Honorable Repe. Oh, yeah, Abim. Sorry, Arepe? Oh, so which Arepe? Yes, I said you. Should I give it to Abim? Okay. Honorable Cooper. Then chair, you will come in. Don't mind chair defense.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity. Why do I say so? I say so because I am one of those who took government to court from the time I set my foot on this parliament. Under case miscellaneous, under miscellaneous case number 163 of 202 at Mbale, Okupe Elijah and 2020 others versus the Attorney General and 3 others. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me from the onset to thank the current Attorney General. At least we are seeing light at the end of the tunnel. From the time he set his foot on the office, I had a meeting with him and he said, no, let us have a start. Because we have been dragging, and I want to applaud him for that. Whatever mistake could have happened, it was not because of him. It would have been the previous leadership in that office. So I want to thank the Attorney General for having taken that initiative. And that's why also I want to thank you, so that let's have a positive attitude towards this. As I told you that in 2000, court, The judgment, we received it in 2018. 16 years down the road. And in the orders of the court dated on the 7th day of May 2018, they gave orders on how the compensation. One was for the survivors of the families of those that lost their adult persons, to the parents and their figures which are given to it, a compensation for every cow, every goat, every pig, damages for every cow. And those who were killed, they were exemplary damages, and then therefore interest at the rate of 25% per annum from the date of filing the suit till the payment in full, which was 17 years. So it is detailed. So we're wondering why the Office of the Attorney General only picked the cows, because the ruling was very specific and clear. So that's why I applaud Honorable Segona here when he asked that why have we only picked on the cows? There are a number of compensations that were supposed to be made, because this compensation was not only for the cattle rustling, but for also the killings that during the war.
Honorable, conclude.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I was trying to give a background, having been in this case for 17 years.
You have colleagues here.
Yeah, I know, but this would also help them. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to agree with the colleagues that it should not only be cows. There are a number of issues that were raised, even interest. That's why the government decided to even pick, say, instead of paying 900, because by the time of the judgment, the figure which was given for the cow was 900,000. But I want to thank the government. That's why they upped it up to 1,050,000 to take care of the time from the time of the judgment. But inflation, but the more they delay, the more problems coming. I'm only raising a query. The president categorically in the campaign said, I'm going to give Acholi 50 billion, Langot 50 billion, Teso 50 billion to start that financial year. Unfortunately, to date, it's only 50 billion, which has been shared for the 3 regions, 49. But of course, what was given was 50 billion, which has been shared for the 3 regions. So what could have happened to that president's pledge of 50 billion per region? Because we are now entering the 3rd year from the time the president made that proclamation. So we need that to be corrected.
Did we appropriate it as parliament?
Chairperson, I was coming to that. That's why I needed even more time. When the Attorney General reports came to the Committee of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, do you know what was being provided there? It was nil. It is the Committee of the Legal and Parliamentary which put only 30 billion for this current year. So the Attorney General's office has not been budgeting for this money. So we keep wondering why. Because that was President's pledge, government assurance, which should have been fulfilled. We should have been fulfilled. Minister of Finance should have just provided that money. If they failed to provide that year, then the current year they should have been able to provide, but they only provided 50 billion. Finally, Honorable Speaker, the committee, after I raised this matter here, you directed the Committee of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. They have been going round. They started from Teso region. Some of us are written to appear before them here after they come back, but they are still going around. So I think if by the time that report comes, I think it will be comprehensive. The issues have been raised here. I don't want to repeat. Those things happened. And we shared at one time with the Attorney General, and he did admit, say there was, I think, a mistake in their office. So they had to top up to make it 1 million. That's why the report has come today will be showing 1,050,000. But originally, the first payment that went, some people even in my place got 70,000. But there was a mistake in the payment. People who did the first payment, the Attorney General to have clarified here such that we don't keep pushing. A mistake was made, but it was corrected. So people got now 1,050,000 per cow. But of course, the procedure even which the Attorney General's chambers use, you cannot do a verification by only sending a list of people to the sub-county and the officer sitting in Soroti, and they just send a list which does not show the number of cows, the number of goats, the people killed. So we're wondering, were you verifying just the name of a person, because the verification should have detailed that. I think the Attorney General should desist and follow what the court gave in the ruling, because the court gave a ruling that there must be joint verification between the Attorney General's office and the people that went to court, or their lawyers or their representatives. But that has never taken place. We are wondering why that has been avoided. That would have solved the problem of us pushing here and there. And finally, there are people who are still in court. Or finally. Now that the Attorney General and government has admitted and has started, I think this matter should be resolved. Because we have always had issues. There are people who are still in court. Lucky for me, at least the judgment was made. And such that we conclude this matter and once for all. We did submit a list of over 300,000 affected families to the Speaker's office, and the Speaker transmitted to the Attorney General was less than 100,000 people that were presented. So I think the coming of the committee's report and working together, what we need is working together. We shall resolve this matter. And at least once again, I want to thank the government that at least it has started paying. Let us have that positive attitude and continue paying. Every financial year, I know we cannot have the 2-3 trillion that we needed at once, but if at least every financial year we provide something, our people will be happy and appreciative to the government. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
So now, colleagues, you can see this is work still in progress. We cannot conclude. Because the report of the committee will come back here. The same people will come to debate it. The same people will come to debate it. So in fact, we are interfering with the work of the committee. Yeah? We are interfering with the work of the committee. So we can lie ourselves, we say we are enriching the committee, but we are interfering with the work of the committee. I don't know how the debate will be. I had allowed Honorable Areper, is the only one I'm stopping on this matter. Yes, so that the committee can continue with its work, and then we come here and conclude. In your procedure, you might broke the Honorable around. So Honorable Areper.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I just want to catch
Order?
from.
Point of order.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My issue is that we are over freezing here. I don't know who is monitoring the ACs. Everybody is freezing. We need somebody to regulate the AC. Thank you.
Crack, take note of that. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I just want to go to catch it from where it stopped. While currently Acholi, Teso, and Lango sub-regions are being considered, there are other regions as well, like Karamoja, Sebei, and others, like Bugishu. This issue has been discussed and started well far, and actually that's how it came to the level of the president during their campaigns, promising that these issues would be handled. What happened in my particular region was, during the last presidential campaigns, the president promised, and a team was dispatched from the Attorney General chambers, and they came and collected data from the sub-counties, which data is piled up in the DSO's offices at the districts. Now, when they started paying other regions, we definitely got pressure, and up to now we are getting pressure from other people who were supposed to be compensated. Mine is for other regions, let them also be considered in the next fiscal period. And this does not only require just a paper acceptance. Let the exercise of verification actually start up.
Thank you, thank you. Now, colleagues, I've remembered. You see, I picked colleagues from regions that had affected people. I have picked Karamoja. You've picked your point, Honorable. Your point was very clear. I think it is important also pick Sebei. Please, colleagues, don't mind. I know how I'm monitoring. I know there are people from Bururi, also the Waruri affected. So, Honorable Chemonges for Sebei, we are getting feelers for now. I hope the committee on legal is taking note the figures from the different. So 1 minute, Honorable Chemonges.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Attorney General.
Now you've started thanking. You have issues, raise issues which you
I
have.
want to thank the Attorney General because last year when he brought the report to the House, it did not have survey. And when I protested, he went and came back with the report with survey region inside. But my question, therefore, now is to know what is the actual process of identifying the beneficiaries? Because up to now, there is nothing on ground. And finally, when he brought the report, he told the House that all those people who had gone to court, who had taken government to court, that the government would consent to their cases. And in Sabay, we had a group of people who had gone to court, and up to now, they have not received their consent judgment.
Thank
And
you.
then, yes, we're also affected.
Thank you.
Otherwise, thank you so much.
Now, colleagues, the Committee on Legal, you need to look at the assignment we gave you. For example, here, Honorable Alfred Dakas Kaberamaido is saying the Parliamentary and Legal Affairs Committee needs to reach out to Greater Kaberamaido and Karaki among Kumam people. They always stop in Soroti, like how Attorney General people also do. So you need to do a comprehensive reach out to do. So Honorable Segona, kindly relay this message to the committee, but I will also link up with the committee. Let me pick for Uganda.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, in some time back, the Yabaruli, who settled in Lango for quite a number of years. Right Honorable Speaker, having settled in Lango, in 1979, they were forced back. It's on record. But when they were forced back, they had acquired properties in Lango, they had land, they had cows, they had buildings. But they never came back with their properties. Mr. Speaker, this issue was tabled to the Attorney General's office. The Deputy Attorney General came to Nakasongola and met those people. They gave him the information. And Mr. Speaker, when I see the list here, those people are not included. My humble submission and prayer that those people be considered. The Attorney General's office go to Nakasongola and meet those people. Thereafter, they consider them and include them on the list. I beg to submit. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Colleagues, if you go back, I think Attorney General, when you're responding, you will guide us properly what your compensation covers. Because when you look at the resolution on 14th April 2022, a motion for resolution of Parliament urging government to immediately stop cattle rustling and restore peace, security, and stability. The sub-regions of Teso, Lango, Acholi, Karamoja, Ugisu, and Sebei was debated and adopted. Okay? Now, is this compensation for the war or for cattle rustling? Now, that one we need also to get it, or whether for both. Okay? So the moment and someone is saying which war? Huh? Are we comparing from the Mau Mau, from the Rwenzururu, Nyungu ya Mawe, and Bachwezi dynasty wars? So I think we need that clarification captured. But let me finalize with Busoga. Pick something from Busoga, because I picked one per region.
Thank you very much. Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, when you were debating that particular report, I remember the Attorney General being on record, capturing Lakwena survivors in Busoga and their property. I'm just surprised when we are finally looking at compensation, there's no single mention. It is going in passing. It is an opportunity, right Honorable, that because during every electioneering period, the issue of Lakwena victims keeps coming up. It's an opportune moment now for the Attorney General to come out clear and tell the country when, we are not saying now, but when at least that commitment should be put on record so that the people are able to make a clear follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Attorney General. That when I was there for 1 year and he was mainly performing witchcraft. One day.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Colleagues, let's listen to that.
Right Honorable Speaker. This is a very emotive issue. And the guidance you've taken is very good because the committee then gets to actually interact with the things that we are doing. It has been on our books for a very long time. And members were only appropriated 50 billion shillings. Now, we had 3 regions to deal with. The decision we made was to distribute the money equally to each district. Each district, not region, each district in those 3 regions. And because we could not determine who should take the money, because some places had 100 claimants, one person has 100 cows, another person has 5 cows, and now the question was, should I pay the one of 100 cows and finish all of it, or should I pay the one with 1 cow? So we decided that the money will be paid pro rata, the amount of money available pro rata to every claimant, with a minimum payment of 1 cow. Like Honorable Cooper said, we made a mistake originally, and they distributed the money pro rata across every claimant. And therefore, some people got 50, 100, depending on the number of cows that were. Yeah. However, as we speak now, Right Honorable Speaker, with the report that I have given you, that anomaly was corrected. And everyone was topped up 1,050,000 shillings. And no. So, right Honorable Speaker, this is
Honorable, I guided some time back. This house does not deal with small things, small clarification, small submission. We deal with substantive stuff. Yeah. So
thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. We shall continue to interact with the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs and the Committee on Government Assurances, where we are sharing all these details. And maybe when we get back here, we'll have a more meaningful conversation. But Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, we only receive the money that is appropriated by Parliament. We did request for 100 billion shillings in this financial year. When the budget came out, we had nothing. The Committee in Legal and Parliamentary Affairs assisted and only appropriated to us 30 billion shillings, which 30 billion shillings we are advised is coming in this quarter. So and as money comes up, we shall. Now, the verification is not complete. It is continuing. In fact, I received some from Kumi last week. Omoro didn't have any of theirs in the last cycle, but we continue receiving those. But we'll require the support of members. If you find that they are ghosts, the ghosts have names, they have national IDs, they have these, we need to deal with them. It's criminal. And we need to work together, and we need to rely on you members of Parliament to help us to deal with those problems. And that is why we try as much as possible to deliver here the actual list of the people who are receiving this money. And finally, Right Honorable Speaker, the Office of the Attorney General does not participate anymore in verification of claimants. When I came into office, I made a decision and I cleared it with Cabinet. The Office of the Attorney General did not have the capacity to determine the people who lost cattle in the different areas. That decision was left to the leadership of the different districts. We only receive, process, we don't even reduce what has been approved. But we are going to continue sharing with the committee, and I'm sure when we come back, we'll have a more enriched report, because the committee would have gone to the ground, and then we can have a meaningful discussion. I beg to submit.
Thank you, colleagues. This is closed. Yeah, this is closed because it's still ongoing. If you still have any issues, we still have an opportunity. Every member is a member of the Committee on Legal and Rules, on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. You can go and you submit. So, colleagues, this is done. Thank you, Attorney General, for bringing an action taken report on resolutions of Parliament as per Rule 220. of our rules of procedure. We have received them, members. We have received from the opposition the response to the report. We have debated, and this is not even for adoption. It's an action taken report. But what I would guide is that the relevant committees continue looking out on this issue. What has been promised that they are doing, we follow up. Number two, we are going into budgeting. Some of the issues require serious budget. We need to consider them during budgeting. Some need registration, you know. So let's take a very, very keen interest in that. Attorney General.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I got taken away by one issue in my report, but I'd like to thank my colleague Honorable Segona for the comments we have given. We have taken them, and I think they add a lot of value. We shall definitely bring the statistics that you have requested, and we'll try and enhance and increase. And we are ready to work and continue developing on this process. I thank you.
Now, Honorable Edakas, I've never seen you insisting this way. I hope you're not repeating what you wrote here that I've read.
No, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I thank you very much for allowing this procedural issue. Honorable Speaker, we seemed to have concentrated on cattle compensation, and we did not discuss the issue of trafficking, which was the other resolution. So I just wanted to raise that. Wouldn't it have been proceeded right for us to also talk about child trafficking?
Honorable Korik, when I was allowing people to speak, I never limited them to anything. So these are the issues which you chose. And let them go on for nothing. Most of them were to do with the legislative program and all that. There is nothing much you can do that is urgent that we need to submit here. But Europe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
You people want
Now-
to give you this chair. You sit in it and the problem you might not hand it over back. Otherwise, it might get sweet and you refuse to vacate. Otherwise, I would give it to you.
Just like you rightly put it, as budgeting has commenced, Mr. Speaker, I realize that to have a comprehensive compensation to all this, the London Attorney General should also capture compensation to torture victims and the victims of gross human rights violations, so that it should not be left out.
Especially awards given by Human Rights
Yes.
Commission and courts.
Yes, please.
You know, it's very, very important. Since we are in the budgeting process, if you give him money he doesn't refuse, he would pay. That's his prayer to settle his debts. Thank you. Lands, you're next to present. Yes, we are doing at least one more. Yes, there is jam outside Honorable colleagues. So instead of you spending hours in the jam, we would rather be doing work for the country.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. This is an action report on the status of the implementation of the resolutions of Parliament on the Nagulu-Nakawa land allocation 2022. The Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee on Nakawa-Nagulu land allocations presented a report with recommendations to Parliament on Wednesday, 18th May 2022. Thank you. The Clerk of Parliament communicated the parliamentary resolutions to the Right Honorable Prime Minister, who is the leader of government business, and requested her to present to Parliament an action taken report on the resolutions of Parliament. Below are the Parliament resolutions and status update on the implementation of the resolutions. Resolution 1, given the irregularities that surround the allocation of Nagulu-Nakawa land
to the so-called investors, all the titles already issued be cancelled and the entire land reverts to government. Status update. Government takes note of the concerns of Parliament. However, the allocatees have binding leases with government subject to the development conditions. Even court guided in the case of Honorable Persis Namuganza versus Attorney General that land titles are cancelled according to the provisions provided for in the registration of the Titles Act, CAP 230. Resolution 2, Uganda government 17 million ex gratia planned to be paid to the former sitting tenants of Nagulu, Nakawa land should be revised upwards to reflect the current market value and be expeditiously paid to the beneficiaries. The status update is government takes note of the concerns of Parliament. However, ex gratia payments are discretionary in nature and are not based on the market value. We recommend that Parliament should appropriate funds to be paid to the former sitting tenants of Nagulu, Nakawa. Resolution 3, government should maintain the original land use plan of Nagulu, Nakawa land as residential and in conformity with the 2013 Kampala Physical Development Plan. Action, government takes note of the Parliament resolution. The development of Nakawa Nagulu land shall take place in accordance with the Kampala Capital City Authority approved development plan. Resolution 4, all those political leaders, ministers, and technical officers mentioned in the ad hoc committee report on Nagulu Nakawa who acted contrary to the public interest and in disregard of the law on the basis of the alleged presidential directives must be held personally liable. Status update, government noted the concerns of Parliament and the matter was sent to appropriate organs for further investigations, which are still going on. Resolution 5, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, Permanent Secretary to the Treasury, should be held responsible for making payments to a third party, ROCO, without any lawful basis. Action, government noted the resolution of Parliament and the appointing authority was notified of the resolution. We are still waiting for the response from the appointing authority. Resolution 6, government should recover the payment made to ROCO Construction Limited, which is about 15.7 billion, given that there was no contract between government of Uganda and ROCO Construction Company. Update, government takes note of the resolution of Parliament. However, government has since acquired shares in ROCO Construction Limited and any outstanding obligations will be reconciled. Resolution 7, the Secretary Uganda Land Commission, Ms. Barbara Imario, be held personally liable for fraudulent activities in allocation of Nagulu Nakawa land. Government noted the resolution of Parliament and Ms. Barbara is on interdiction and investigations are still going on. Resolution 8, Uganda Land Commissioners should be held accountable, retired in public interest, and replaced for abuse of authority and violation of the executive authority in Uganda. Update, government noted the resolution of Parliament and the appointing authority was notified of the resolution. We are still waiting for the response. Resolution number 9, Honorable Persis Namuganza
should be held accountable for abuse of office, for misleading ULC into allocation of land to individuals and entities following presidential directives, which were non-existent. Update. Government noted the resolution of Parliament and the appointing authority was notified of the resolution. We are still waiting for the response. Resolution number 10. Ms. OPEC Prime filed an application for contempt of court against the Attorney General, ULC, Honorable Rukutana Mwesigwa, Honorable Betty Amongi, Honorable Baguma Isoke, which was successful, and the respondents ordered to pay a fine of 50 million Ugandan shillings each, but that was paid by the government of Uganda. The monies that were ordered by court to be paid by individual ministers, but was paid by the government, should be recovered from the affected ministers stroke individuals. Update. Government noted the resolution of Parliament and the Attorney General was notified of the resolution. We are waiting for guidance from the Attorney General on the matter. Resolution 11. All government land should be identified, surveyed, titled, and a comprehensive public land inventory and register established under the supervision, management, and administration by the Uganda Land Commission. Update. Government takes note of the resolution of Parliament. ULC has embarked on a process of updating the government land inventory, detailing all the government land. The following actions have so far been taken: updating the register of all leases issued by ULC. We have written to MDS to have all their land registered. We are conducting visits to MDS to ensure they have registered and titled all land under their jurisdiction. However, this activity requires huge financial resources, which Uganda Land Commission does not currently have. A project proposal has been prepared and forwarded to the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to provide funds for surveying, demarcating, registering, and titling all government land. Resolution 12, since Uganda Land Commission lacks both financial and human resources capacity to satisfactorily execute its mandate and has often relied on the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development to second personnel to help it out in technical aspects of land management, leaving it very vulnerable to unscrupulous land dealers. The personnel, their technical capacity and financial capacity of the commission needs to be strengthened. Update. Government takes note of the resolution of Parliament. The vacant position in the staffing structure have been cleared by the Ministry of Public Service and the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for filling or recruitment. Uganda Land Commission is engaging the Ministry of Public Service to review its structure. A training and capacity building program has been developed to enhance capacity of Uganda Land Commission staff. Government will enhance the budget ceiling for Uganda Land Commission, and the Uganda Land Commission bill is in the offing. And when the bill is enacted into law, it will expand and regulate the mandate of the commission and its relationship with the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, district land boards, and key other players in the land sector. The bill will ensure autonomy of the commission, but also provide appropriate structures at the headquarters, regional and zonal areas. Resolution 13, appointment of a more technically competent commission with exposure and experience on land management be done. Status. Government will take into consideration the resolution of Parliament while appointing commission members and recruiting technically competent staff for the commission. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I beg to submit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, we also still have action taken report in regard to the recommendations of the Committee of Fiscal Infrastructure and the petition in the matter of Kasori tenant. Limited. So also present that because we do all at once and then we respond at once.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members. This is a report on action taken in regard to recommendations of the Committee on Physical Infrastructure on the petition in the matter of Kasori Tenants Circle Limited stroke Kasori Housing Project. Right Honorable Speaker, on Thursday, 19th May 2022, the Committee on Physical Infrastructure presented a report on the petition in the matter of Kasori Tenants Circle Limited stroke Kasori Housing Project. Right Honorable Speaker, after the presentation and debate on the report, you directed that the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, and the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development should present an action taken report in regard to the committee recommendations on 19th July 2022. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, after receiving the resolutions of Parliament on the report of the Committee on Physical Infrastructure on the petition in the matter of Kasori Tenants Circle Limited stroke Kasori Housing Project, on the 16th of June 2022, I communicated the resolutions to the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, then the Minister of Works and Transport, and the Executive Director of Standard Gauge Railway for appropriate action. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the following actions have been taken on the committee recommendations. 1, government should, as a priority, clear the outstanding mortgage with DFCU Bank and get back the land title to avoid accumulation of interest. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the Minister of Lands engaged the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, the Minister of Works, the Standard Gauge Railway to prioritize compensation for the DFCU Bank outstanding mortgage to avoid further loss to government in accumulated interest. Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Development also engaged DFCU Bank to halt the sale and eviction of Kasori Housing Project tenants. The bank agreed to hold the sale and eviction of tenants subject to availing a letter of comfort on payment of the mortgage with clear timelines. The Standard Gauge Railway wrote to Minister of Finance for compensation funds which were not provided. Also, Standard Gauge Railway could not provide the commitment letter to DFCU without commitment from the Minister of Finance to provide the funds. Standard Gauge Railway is constrained and cannot clear the loan. Parliament should compel Minister of Finance to reprioritize and provide funds for repayment of the loan since it accumulates interest annually. The Standard Gauge Railway be provided with Ugandan shillings 4.231 billion to cover the verified project affected persons as per the valuation report as follows. PAPS in 92 houses and 1 project office, that is about 3.7 billion. Then PAPs in the 90 structures in existing slum, about 817 million, 68,304. Then 7 freehold offers from Pool Housing Committee, it's about 143 million, 557,180. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, the Minister of Works and Transport, Standard Gauge Leyre, agreed to prioritize compensation for the outstanding DFCU bank mortgage in this financial year 2022-2023 budgetary allocation for compensation under the Standard Gauge Leyre. This will enable urgent recovery of the land title and also avoid further loss of government in accumulating interest. The next phase of payment will deal with compensation of the rest of the PAPs. There were 59 PAPs who were not valued by Standard Gauge Leyre because they were never found on ground at the time of valuation. These PAPs were part of the initial project and their properties were demolished during the initial phase and they were never valued. However, the chief government valuer provided a value for the demolished properties of 636 million, 915,708 shillings. We request Parliament to allocate for compensation of the 59 PAPs and they be paid through the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Then Ugandan shillings 3.2 for the mortgaged land of 9.318 acres as valued by Standard Gauge Leyre and approved by the chief government valuer should only be paid to Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development for land acquisition if government is going to replicate the project elsewhere. Otherwise, government cannot pay itself. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, the overall objective of the Kasol Housing Project was to pilot a new initiative of parking low-income mortgages for poor households through partnerships for several parties to minimize risks while aiming at full cost recovery. Other objectives were to test bringing housing finance to the low-income segments in our society, to provide security of tenure for the poor, to enhance the skills and incomes of the slum dwellers, to promote the culture of saving among the population with the overall goal of improving living conditions and the urban environment within Tororo municipality. This is in line with government policy on housing. It was envisioned that upon successful piloting, this model would be replicated in other slums across the country. Unfortunately, the objectives of the project were never attained or achieved. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, in light of the above, and given the urgent need to address the challenges of slums and mitigate the acute housing deficit of about 2.4 million housing units, the ministry intends to replicate the project elsewhere. The ministry has embarked on the process of identifying a slum for a similar project. The compensation awards for the structures on the Kasoli land should be deposited on the individual accounts of the respective beneficiaries. The SACCO should be notified about the direct payment so that it deals with its members individually. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, the ministry communicated the parliamentary resolution to SGR for appropriate action, and SGR indicated that the compensation award will be paid on the Kasol Housing SACCO account After offsetting the mortgage for DFCU, then the balance will be paid to individual accounts and the SACCO will be notified accordingly. Right, Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, thank you. I beg to submit.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Procedure. Switch on.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I have just been following the report presented by the Honorable Minister. But I think to make the report complete, plausible, and authentic, there are some matters that the report refers to, notifications to the appointing authority and other people. Wouldn't it be procedure right to have that documentation appended to that report to make it complete?
That notifications were made, for example. Yes, I agree with that, Honorable Korik. Honorable Ministers, you can do that because you see, Rule 220, which we base on the way it was framed, it is the minister, okay, to make this report. Now, where the minister cannot go beyond something beyond her powers, when she informed the appointing authority, she has taken action. Okay, but indeed, like you have said, we need proof that this has been done. And also, the relevant committees, like how I guided on the last one, the relevant committees now should take up this matter. Because whatever the minister has presented here, we need to ensure indeed is followed up and realized. And that is the purpose of the sectoral committees. That's the purpose of oversight committees. But Honorable Repair raises a very important point. So, Honorable Minister, we shall request you on Thursday, you bring all these letters and the documents you've referred to, ensure they are laid on table. I will give you space. Procedure, Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. On I'm raising actually in response to our rule number 25, subsection 7. On the 33rd sitting on 22nd September this year, under item 6, Minister of Lands had 8 questions to respond to. But when this session had just started, Minister of Lands had only 1 new question. There was no reference to other earlier questions. And we were wondering, were they resolved during recess? So my procedure request is for the minister to respond to what was done to the 8 questions that were on the parliamentary order paper by 22nd September in the 33rd sitting of the first meeting of the 2nd session of the 11th Parliament. Thank you.
Honorable colleague, read the Rule 220. These are resolutions, not questions of Parliament. These are resolutions that arise out of adopted reports, adopted motions, not questions asked by colleagues. Okay? Now, questions asked by colleagues are totally different. Those ones, the presiding officer, once we receive an answer, I put it on the order paper, if they are pending. But action taken is when a committee does work, we adopt a report. You pick out resolutions. When a motion is presented, we debate and we adopt it. So these are totally different rules. They are not related at all. Okay? Yes. So, but to answer her point, Honorable Minister, if you have any pending questions, please ensure you respond to them. I remember there's a time we gave you a lot of space on the order paper, and you cleared very many issues. Before we went into recess, I was the one in the chair. I ensured all pending issues before we went for recess were handled. And the Minister of Lands, all their issues were captured and we handled them. If there are any issues that came up, they should be there. But honorable colleagues always refer to the order paper. When you see on the order paper and you see business to follow, That's where we usually have pending business. If you don't see it here, you know it has been handled. Yes. And if we forget and you have it and you come to us, we ensure clerk extracts it. But I gave Minister of Lands, I remember, she answered around 5 questions consecutively here on the floor, and I was chairing. Yeah. But cross-check those questions you see. Honorable Segona, who was given a responsibility by ROC to prepare responses, we first listen to the leader of opposition for alternative responses to the issues raised.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the Minister for the action taken. I observe, though, as you earlier guided, that the Minister needs to table evidence of the action taken. And of course, to take guidance from Rule 220, because the Minister is required to submit to Parliament an action taken report and mark the following word, detailing what actions have been taken, not simply mentioning, but detailing the actions that have been taken. Secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, as colleagues will observe, of the 13 resolutions that the Minister has been responding to, the common denominator has been to say the government notes this. And if you follow the answer of what she has read, in a significant number of resolutions, no action has been taken, apart from noting. And our resolution was not to invite government to note, but to take action. And it must be demonstrable action. Right Honorable Speaker, and this goes for almost all, apart from one where the Secretary Land Commission has been interdicted as a result of our recommendations. I would therefore invite the Minister this time round to take action. Right Honorable Speaker, my attention has specifically been drawn to the payment by government for some officers who were found wanting by court for personal or individual action. Contempt of court by all standards and within its 4 corners, at least as I understand the English language, is a personal action. It is not only personal action, it is criminal. Now, how somebody allocates himself or herself the duty to pay for somebody's criminal action, and that person is an accomplice after the fact and must equally be called upon to pay for that sin. It is not sufficient to tell Parliament that after resolving that you pay back our money, you have written to the Attorney General to guide you. In the first place, why didn't you seek guidance from the Attorney General before spending public resources on the crimes of individuals? Indeed, the Attorney General has been here, and he has not been called upon.
He's here.
Oh, he is here.
Yes.
Yes, he's actually here seated cross-legged and should have been called upon to explain why it has taken him that long to exercise the function under Article 119 of our Constitution of advising errant people on their errors of paying for their individual actions that amount to contempt. We've heard about the ULC bill, and this has been pending for more than a year, because I remember the first time I raised an issue here to do with ULC, particularly ULC divesting itself of land where they are only and constitutionally required to hold in trust. Then they talked of a bill which has not come, and that was in the 9th Parliament. To date, we have not seen this bill. And when someone tells you the bill is in the offing, what does offing mean? They have not even put pen down to paper to draft this bill. The moment you say it is in the offing, probably it is at conception or even pre-conception stage. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, I now beg to proceed in a detailed manner, but bearing in mind the time limitations we have. At page 50 of our responses, we have raised matters to do to respond to the action taken report by the Ministry of Lands. Right Honorable Speaker, you recall that in presiding over on the 19th day of May 2020, when the matter came up by way of a petition on that matter of Kasol Tenant Circle Limited, the presiding officer, in the spirit of cohesion in the House, directed that the Minister of Lands, Housing and Urban Developments, and the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development make a follow-up on the recommendations of both the majority and minority committee reports and reconcile the two. The expectation and an inevitable conclusion would be that they would be looking at the two reports. Looking at the action taken report, after receiving the resolutions of Parliament on the report of the committee, including your guidance, Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development communicated the resolutions to the Minister of Finance and Minister of Works and Transport, plus the Executive Director of Standard Gauge Railway for appropriate action. Our observation: if the resolutions of Parliament extracted by the Office of Clerk to Parliament did not include the harmonization process or reconciliation of the recommendations of the both majority and minority reports, then there was a very big problem. But the minister is a member of Parliament and was here. Before attempting to implement the recommendations only of the majority report, as reported by the minister, we would expect the reconciliation of both reports to be done as per the presiding officer's guidance, and an action taken report on the agreed position be tabled in this House. I make reference to the answer which I already laid on table. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, it is also important to note that going by the majority report, government will spend 7.5 billion shillings. And I footnote for ease of reference in the compensation for houses to be demolished, and if purchased an adjacent land to realign the SGR, considering that an acre of land is currently in that area at Uganda shillings 40 million, for 10 acres would cost the country only 400 million. A total of 7.1 billion and 92 low-cost houses will be saved that way, hence saving the taxpayers' money. We recommend that the reconciliation process be concluded as the presiding officer guided, and on that action taken report tabled in the House without any further delay. This will help us cover any gap where taxpayers' money is wasted, since the whole matter of Kasoli has irregularities, impersonation, and speculators who want to take government's money. Action taken on the status of implementation of resolutions of Parliament on Nakawa Naguru land allocations. Right Honorable Speaker, I will summarize our response in this. One, the ministers well captured the resolutions of Parliament on the subject. They included the IGG investigating further the matter with a view of bringing to book any wrongdoers. The government expediting and giving the two entities titles, namely Nakawa Division Headquarters and Naguru Infant School, to safeguard those interests. The minister has not reported on those. The settlement agreement to be implemented by both parties. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, we have reproduced all the 15, actually there were 20 to be exact. There were 35 recommendations. Let me particularly respond to the argument that cancellation of title and those leases was not possible because they are legally binding agreements. We beg to differ, and fundamentally so. Because once irregularities and illegalities have been identified as marring the process, then there's no legally binding agreement. You cannot be stopped from canceling a lease improperly, illegally, and irregularly procured. So that cannot be a defense, except if the government was disagreeing with our committee report. The payment of 17 million as ex gratia payment to be revised to the current market value. We agree that ex gratia payment is discretion, but a commitment has already been made. The pegging of ex gratia payment to the value of land is intended to achieve the objective for which it was intended. Because ex gratia, you are supposed to pay some 2-3 years back. The value of land has changed, and your intention was to settle that tenant who you evicted. And that was the whole purpose. The observation by the ad hoc committee, which investigated the matter, was that it was aware of the land in question was leased out, and that the leases between ELC and entities that did not qualify for allocation to be terminated. For example, the committee concluded that MS Internal Medicine Virginia, PC, a non-existing and a sham company of an investor, as such that the land we are allocated to them should be recovered and the lease terminated. What is so difficult about that? Somebody does not exist. There is not even risk of a suit because the person does not exist. This committee, this parliament has already recommended that certain people be prosecuted for wrongdoing. And what is the wrongdoing connected with? It is connected with this allocation. Therefore, you cannot approbate and reprobate. On the one hand, you're saying it was an irregular process. On the other hand, you're saying it produced legally binding lease agreements. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I don't think that such a thing could be accommodated. We therefore recommend that the lease offers to MS Virginia, Internal Medicine Virginia PC, Master Links Uganda Limited, Fanero Ministries, and MS Arab Oil Supplies and Exploration Limited, whose analysis by the ad hoc committee revealed that ULC ignored its own set parameters in the allocation, be cancelled with immediate effect. We reiterate at page 55 the Parliament's resolution that ex gratia payments planned therefore be paid with guidance from the market values. We recommend that the Office of the Prime Minister proceeds to implement these resolutions of Parliament and adhere to the resolutions of Parliament. As I conclude, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I do not know what happens elsewhere. I mean, in the executive. I thought civility and elementary decency would require that when you're not clear about the resolutions of Parliament, you come back to Parliament. You do not wait for the same Parliament to wake you up. Then you come back and say, oh, we have done this, we have done that. When we talk about action taken report, whereas it is true that legally we cannot call the president here to compel him, the president has submitted to the jurisdiction of this House by nominating a representative who is the leader of government business here. When we make our recommendations and resolutions, they are not only intended for the ministers, but government as a whole, including the presidency. It is not acceptable, at least in my humble opinion, that you can simply say, we wrote to the appointing authority, and that is His Excellency the President, who is going to come back to us, including in that same year, to ask us in his capacity as Minister for Finance to send and appropriate money to the people we have already sanctioned. It is high time we put our feet down and asserted our authority as the appropriating authority. Whereas the president is the appointing authority, we are the appropriating authority. we do not appropriate money to be wasted. I beg to submit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mbafo Blob. The chairman, colleagues, I open up for 5 people. Chairman, Fiscal Infrastructure Committee.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. And I would like to thank the Minister of Lands for the action taken report. However, Right Honorable Speaker, this land in question indeed is supposed to house the headquarters of the SGR. Hearing from the Honorable Minister, I think Parliament needs to hear further from Works and Transport, Finance, and then SGR, because what we need is money to secure this land. Secondly, Right Honorable, I'd like to have heard the comment from Honorable Segona. He has talked of acquiring the possibility of acquiring a piece of land at the site. I just wanted to inform the House that during the implementation of this project, government was a party. And indeed, government wrote to this, to the SACCO, and intimated to the SACCO members that government was going to take this land after compensation, and thereafter they were going to be evicted. And that was one of the strong.
Conclude, Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. So I wanted to inform Honorable Segona that by government opting to go away, then I think the SACCO would sue, because government was party, and it's just the delay that caused, because they wrote to the tenants that government was going to take that land. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This matter is under your committee. So you have all the powers for up in terms of ensuring that indeed the parliamentary resolutions are implemented. Honorable Segona has told you the whip we have, the strengths we have. Though we would want to work together, we wouldn't want, any commotion. The moment we respect each other, it becomes very, very easy for us. Yes, Vice Chair, you want to? Yeah?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I want to thank the Minister for the statement. However, I want to note, just like the Honorable Segona has also taken note, that if we are to be very honest with ourselves, rating ourselves on the status of implementation of these resolutions, very few of them, honestly, we could say completed. Majority are either pending, but also we don't have timelines that are tagged for us to be sure that really some concrete action will be taken and we'll see tangible results. I pick, for example, the one on appointment of more competent commission with experience and expertise in land management. That one is just mentioned there, and then she says it will be done. But when will it be done? I think we will be honest with ourselves, but also to Ugandans. If we can tag actions